You are now listening to the IELTS podcast. Learn from tutors and ex-examiners who are masters of IELTS preparation. Your host, Ben Worthington.
Hello there, IELTS students. Hope it's all going well. In this episode, we're going to focus mainly on IELTS material. And I'm going to give you a strategy. I call it the strategy that never fails, okay? And it's just a strategy to help you approach this. And it's one that I personally use myself for taking on big tasks. So it's perfect for taking on the IELTS. Okay, now before we start, there are two things that I'd like to say to you. One, if you can, grab a pen, because I'll be sharing quite a few valuable websites, and it's good just to make notes because it turns it into a more active sort of like experience, a more active learning experience where you're physically involved, so you're more likely to remember it because you're involving more of your senses. And secondly, the other thing that I wanted to say was well done to Lena and Prakash for getting their work corrected, getting the tips, and successfully passing IELTS at the band score they wanted. Prakash finally got his band 7. Perhaps we'll be doing an interview with him later on. I don't know yet. But yeah, Prakash, awesome student. He did the work. He did all the work. He did all the essays. Wrote quite a few, got feedback, implemented the sentence guide, did absolutely fantastic. So well done to Prakash. And yes, if you are so struggling with the IELTS writing, the first thing you should do is get some feedback and get help. Okay, now let's get cracking with this new podcast all about IELTS study material. So like I said before, the first thing, if you're struggling with this, first of all, you could either get some help from me at sentenceguide.com and you can get some feedback from there. If your problem's a little bit more serious than that, if you want somebody to help you, to push you and to motivate you, then the sentenceguide.com course will be perfect for you. Another resource would be the IELTS Motivation podcast I did, where there's lots of techniques there, and I was just reviewing the interview I did with Kevin, who successfully passed, and he said that he used the visualization technique, so I'd strongly recommend using that. Now, let's get cracking. The next site I want to tell you about is one that has all the Cambridge IELTS 8, Cambridge IELTS 9, the practice exams, textbooks for IELTS vocabulary, they're all on there. Okay, and there's even one user called Kayao Min, okay, who's actually made a quite decent collection of all the different resources out there. So that's called scribd.com, and that's scribd.com. Okay, scribd.com. But if you go to the website, you'll see just type IELTS materials, IELTS podcast. You'll get the blog post and you'll see the links there. Okay. Now, if you are going to get these resources, okay, if you are going to get them, then make sure that you're using them. Don't just fill up your computer and feel good about it. I mean, you can feel good about it, of course, but don't just fill up your computer and then leave it, okay? There's no point having 30 gigabytes of IELTS material on your hard drive if you're never going to use it. And plus, it can be rather daunting. It can be rather confusing because you'll be thinking, where am I going to start with all of this? Okay, so I would, if you're going to take that route, just choose one book, work through it, do all the practice tests, or do all the exercises, and then just work on the next one, okay? And even just download one at a time, okay? And at the end, like I said before, there's a really useful strategy that I'll share that's going to be helpful, especially for these types of resources. Now, to take it one step further, all right, you can also check the torrents, okay? I personally use uTorrent. I don't use it that much, to be honest with you, because I don't like having 120 gigabytes of stuff. But anyway, I did do a quick search and I found a 30 gigabyte Ultimate IELTS torrent. That's also on the website, on my website. So all you have to do is go there, get the links, but like I said before, I mean, what is the point of having 30 gigabytes of IELTS material if you don't have the time to use it, or you don't know how to use it, or even worse, you're not getting sort of like that feedback. Anyway, the reason why I mentioned the torrent one is because with 30 gigabytes, it's going to have all the audios as well, which the script one doesn't. It just has the PDFs. Okay, so if you want to take it a step further, go to the Pirate Bay, or you just go to the links. I just put in IELTS material, huge collection IELTS materials. Okay, 29.22 gigabytes. It's insane. All right. Now another option is Amazon, and the advantage of Amazon is that you'll have to pay. I know it doesn't sound like much of an advantage, but personally, I find if I pay for something, I am reluctant not to use it. That means that I'm going to try and get my money's worth out of it and just basically rinse it. Okay? So that's useful. And probably you could use that. If you find that motivates you, then you might want to have a look at the sentenceguide.com, because you do have to pay there as well. Okay. Now, another one, which you've probably heard me mention before, but I'm a great fan of this. And once again, it goes back to the strategy I was saying before, which I'll share at the end. But this next website is all about the articles or prepositions. Okay, and I made a tutorial video about how to use this website, but it's basically the close. You go to Google, Georgia's close with a z.fr. Okay, just punch that into Google. You've got the links on my site, and with this website, what you do is basically find some authentic material. In the video example, I put some IELTS sample essays. Okay. And you basically just copy paste that text. It removes all the things that you want to. I would strongly suggest you work with articles, because out of all the essay corrections I do, pretty much there is not one single essay that has perfect use of articles. Okay. So yeah, you go to the website, paste that material, click next, and it removes all the articles, and then you have to fill it in. Okay, and you can just do this on the screen, and you can just basically copy, you can basically just compare it with the original that you have on the other tab in your browser, or that you have on some text in front of you. Okay, that's really good, but once again, like I said, you need a strategy. All right then. Now, if you are wanting to take it to another level, okay, if you're going for a band 9, or maybe you're even a native speaker and you can't get that band 9, there is a video on YouTube called by Judy Swan, Beyond Scientific Writing, Beyond Tips and Tricks. And this is a really advanced video, okay? And I'd strongly recommend that if you do want to take your writing to the next level, but it is complex, okay? It's all about clauses and how to emphasize and how to deliver news and bad news and stuff like that. And it can be useful if you're going for the upper band scores. All right, but I'll tell you now, I had quite a few problems with that as well. All right, not problems, but it's just difficult to grasp, that's all. But it's definitely worth exploring. Okay, and the main gist of that video is that it's all about structure, and not your essay structure. It's about your sentence structure and how you can influence the reader. And one of the very interesting things about that video was that when she said, she asked the audience, they all read the same text, and then she asked the audience what their reaction were, and it was exactly the same text, but different audience. The students had different reactions to it, to the same text, and that's a very important lesson, because it just goes to show you that every reader is different and their interpretations are different as well. So even though you think that you're reading something, or you're writing something, it's going to have a different reaction for the reader. Okay, and every reader is different. That's why I strongly advocate getting a set structure for your IELTS writing, and that kind of structure you can find at sentenceguide.com. Okay, now let's go into the next site, or the next piece of material that I wanted to share with you. There's the ESL Punctuation Online quiz. Okay, you just need to go to Google, put that in, and you're aware. The exact website for that is ESL Cafe. Just go to Google, put ESL Cafe Punctuation Quiz. Okay, and there you can just work through and online quizzes. But once again, the value in this comes from knowing how to use them, which I'll explain at the end. Now, the other one that I was really excited about when I discovered this is called BreakingNewsEnglish.com. Now, this one's fantastic. It really is fantastic. And I was so excited and really geeking out over this one. But the reason why it's so good is because not only do you get to choose the level, okay, secondly, it's got all the kind of crazy topics that you're going to find on the IELTS reading, Arctic penguins, electric cars, shoes made out of rubbish, solar powered planes. All these typical IELTS topics are there. And what I find is extremely useful is that they're all relevant, and it's publishing every 3 or 4 days, and it's all news that's in the news. It's all up-to-date relevant stuff, which is what you need to start filling your brain with, okay, to get a good score and to start to be able to form opinions for the writing, okay? So not only is the material good, you get to choose the level, and then you've even got questions that are in the similar style to IELTS, okay? Checking for meaning is one of the most important things there. And then, just to make it even better, you can actually listen to the reading text. Okay, so you can listen to the reading text, and this is fantastic because you don't have to guess how the word is pronounced. If you see a new word there, you can immediately get the correct pronunciation. And that is insanely important, because when you're learning a new word, you want to get the correct pronunciation first time, or spend the rest of your life pronouncing it wrong and not being understood and sounding like a muppet, as we say in Yorkshire. Okay? Alright, so I'd strongly recommend that one. BreakingNewsEnglish.com. Okay then. Now, let me share with you the IELTS preparation strategy that never fails. Okay? Now, what usually happens, and I know this because I am talking with students every single day in the inbox, and when I was tutoring one-on-one, I saw this all the time. Students would come in, usually January or September, and they would be saying, I'm going to learn English, I've got to learn English, I've got to pass the IELTS exam, I've got to pass the Cambridge First, I've got to do this, I'm going to just do it 5 hours a day for the next 3 years until I'm bilingual. And what happens is they never reach these lofty goals, these extremely difficult goals, okay? They're really tough to meet. And of course, you're not going to meet them. So what happens is you get a bit depressed for not meeting them because they're extremely difficult anyway. You don't meet them, you get depressed, and you kind of lose your motivation to start studying, to study more, which is terrible. So what I propose and what I personally do, okay, is I break it down into the tiniest tasks, okay? And I mean, of course, if your IELTS exam is next week, then you've got no option but to start putting in 10, 15, 25 hours a day. And I mean 25 hours a day. No, but if your exam is like next week, then you've got no option. You've just basically got to do 5, 10, 20 hours a day, whatever. Okay? However, if you're more smarter or a bit more prepared and you've got your IELTS exam in 2 months, then you can start, this strategy is perfect for you. What you do is you basically just put a modest goal of an hour a day, or even 30 minutes a day if you're having problems starting off, okay? And you'll say, okay, I'm just going to do one activity on breakingnewsenglish.com, okay? Or I'm just going to do one activity on that close website, okay? Or I'm just going to write out one IELTS essay, pen to paper, copying it from the screen, one of those every morning instead of watching the news on television, okay, or something like that. All right, and you just start off with just doing one simple thing a day, okay, and then once that has become a habit after a week and you're getting it done and you're ticking it off in your diary, okay, then you add another one and you'll say, I'm going to do breaking news and I'm going to do ESL Cafe, okay, 2 online exercises, and maybe I'm going to copy out an essay as well, okay? And you start doing that, and then week 2 you're doing 2 things every single day, okay? And here's some more tips for getting this habit. Well, one, if you're making it a daily habit, maybe doing it in the morning and in the evening, you're more likely to remember. It's frequency that counts when you're learning something, or as they say, repetition is the mother of all learning, okay? Repetition is the mother of all learning. So basically, yeah, in the mornings, every single morning, or in the mornings and the evenings, that would be perfect, okay? I strongly recommend doing it at the same time every day to get into that routine, okay? Ticking it off, writing it down in your diary and ticking it off. That's a very strong motivating factor. And doing it like this, breaking it down step by step, you're going to find it's much more realistic and you're much more likely to stick with the program, stick with it, doing it day by day, okay? And if you find that that's not possible for you, or you've tried it in the past, then you may want to have a look at the sentence guide where you've got emails pushing you and you just basically, you got a task, you complete it, you get feedback and the next task. Okay, so you've basically got someone pushing you. It's either going to be me or Matt, the other essay checker, pushing you daily or working at your speed. Okay, so that's the IELTS strategy. It's basically just breaking it down, lots of preparation, and setting realistic goals and not getting depressed about it and just being realistic. That's all. And just pushing yourself. So, and even before you start that, if you want another tip, do your practice test, identify the area where you fail. Maybe it's the reading, maybe it's the multiple choice of the reading, or maybe it's the writing or whatever, and then just work on that specific area, okay? Put that onto your 30 minutes a day list, okay? IELTS reading, multiple choice, 30-minute quiz, okay? Something like that. And then that is how you're going to get the best use of all these materials that I gave you, okay? That, as well as basically putting your life in English, which means filling your head up with English, dreaming in English, talking to yourself in English, just doing all these things. So that's the end of this podcast. I won't go on anymore. Remember to sign up if you want more material. Also remember to check out sentenceguide.com. Also remember to send me an email if you've got any questions. And remember, IELTS is not impossible, okay? Just the right strategy, the right preparation. You've learned your own language. There's no reason why you can't learn English, and there's no reason why you cannot shine when it comes to IELTS. Trust me, I see stories every week. I see students emailing me. I read their emails. Ben, thank you so much. Trust me, this is not impossible. You can do it. All right? Okay. Good luck.
Thanks for listening to IELTSPodcast.com.